Hi everyone there, it's Nick Vujicic. I'm so honored to be a keynote speaker here tonight to really help this experience. Although it's virtual between you and me, our hearts are connected. And I want you to know that in this time of safe distancing, there is nothing more important than in a time of crisis and uncertainty to realign our own values and be self-aware of understanding our greater purpose as not a human doing, but a human being. And I just want to say it's an incredible honor that I can talk to you tonight during Singapore Salvation Army event happening right now. And I just want to tell you, I love you. I don't know what you've seen on videos about me. I've been to Singapore, I think 13 times now. They say I run so fast I leave my legs behind. But obviously now with 2020, life is certainly different. I have to say that I, on one hand, am very sad to know the negative impact of COVID and all that within the context of quarantines and people losing their jobs in some places of the world, losing their homes, losing loved ones' lives as well, and going through suffering and pain. And in suffering and pain and crisis, we understand that, especially in 2020, we feel that it's obviously unprecedented and very difficult to try and even correlate a comparison of era or tragedy. And when that happens like this, it's very hard to find stability and not be debilitated by fear. Well, I want you to know that I'm a motivational speaker and I travel around the world trying to inspire people to dream big and never give up. Well, I tell you, this motivational person, Nick Vujicic, who was busy globetrotting all around the world and trying to inspire people, I'll never get tired of, doing all that. But guess what? I have no choice. And in stopping for 6 months, I have to say that today, after 6 months, can you say that word? Today, today, Nick Vujicic can look back at the last 6 months and say, okay, that was hard. That was rough. And that felt yuck. And I want to share with you, though, how I did not get stuck in the yuck. And how do we reframe our struggles, our challenges? How do we keep our emotions at bay? And how do we continue as an individual or a family member, or even understanding as a society in the community around you? How do we continue to seek and execute a life filled with passion and purpose in uncertain times? Well, first of all, I want you to know that the first pillar of surviving that helped me was having the attitude of gratitude. You know, they say, yeah, you don't know what you got till it's gone, right? We understand that. And I've said that many, many times. However, 2020 has really stopped me in my tracks to the point where I felt unmotivated. I felt fearful. I had anxiety. I had panic. I felt like I was mentally numb for about four weeks as well. And I'm happy to transparently admit that because we all are human beings and we all feel. And in that feeling, it's not that you know, want to, not feel those things. Of course, you don't want to feel scared. That's true, but you can't change the way you feel. And so in the attitude of gratitude, despite the feeling, so categorizing the feeling separate to the attitude of gratitude, the way that I did this was understanding the power that it's okay to embrace what I feel and not reject what I feel because what I feel is what I feel. But then what we do with those feelings, sometimes you need counseling, sometimes you need time, sometimes you need more direction. Whatever that is, let yourself go through those emotions. Don't suppress those emotions, and quickly then reframe it to, well, I'm so thankful though that I have this, that this and this and this went well. 2020 though, on the attitude of gratitude, taught me a whole new level, where I actually looked back at the obstacles in my life, and I was so thankful for the things that actually could have gone even worse. That's right. That's how extreme I needed tools to reframe my situation as the motivational speaker. So maybe even write down these four pillars that I'm sharing with you. So number one is attitude of gratitude, not being just thankful for what you have, but thankful for what could have gone even worse. And this is not belittling any of your suffering. It's just a principle and exercise that I intentionally put in my lifestyle to be positive and to become resilient, because resilience is everything when we all go through times of trouble, fear, and crisis. The other thing is understanding the second pillar of the power of perspective. With so much distraction of people's opinions, with, I would have to say, the news, and just like, whoa, this is crazy, right? We could either say this is the most difficult time that the world has ever seen, and we could either conclude in our mind, irrationally or rationally, this is the end of this, and this might be the beginning of that. Whatever that looks like for you, the power of perspective of actually looking back where Singapore came from, looking back, the global economic crisis between 2008, 2012, looking back and acknowledging your last obstacle and season of challenge and how you pushed through and what you learned from that and how we all became stronger. Yes, there are fears that a new normal is going to be very bizarre and foreign for many of us. And it might take a whole generation of us to actually look back and use this year as a historical point where life on earth changed forever. But that doesn't change the definition of your value as a human being. Uh, the success of yesterday, sure, doesn't determine the success of the next decade, but the power of perspective, whether it's family, business, these are opportunities. They're not barriers, they're opportunities for you to understand that, look, it's not the end of your life. You're going to be okay. We're all in this together, and together we're stronger. And remembering that this is not our first and big crisis, okay? So what do you do with all of this? For me, the third pillar was really important for me to get out in 2020 of being peeled on the floor, to get up on my own 2 feet again. I needed counseling. I needed wisdom. I needed just to talk to someone. I needed to talk to a friend, even if I felt a fear of inadequacy, that I didn't even feel like I had anything to share or any knowledge that they didn't know. And I just called them. It was amazing just calling the friends and not just texting and this and that, but actually engaging, right? I love how Singapore was one of the first, if not the first, country in the world to call it safe distancing instead of social distancing, because we are social beings, okay? And so what we got to understand is the importance of friendships in our life and people around us who you can encourage and they also can encourage. Sometimes we need professional counseling. I've had psychologists over the years to get through my crisis as well. So don't be worried about that. The fourth pillar of surviving is taking one day at a time. It kind of sounds like perspective, but actually it's not. It's you actually setting a pace like a marathon to say, okay, I know that finishing line, I can't even see it. It feels like 1,000 miles from here before I actually feel like myself again. I don't even know if that confidence that I used to have in 2019 will ever come back. What am I going to do if this and this and this happens? Look, we know that there is fear that are irrational fears or rational fears, and you can't change what you can't change, and you got to do what you can do if you can change something. And in the perspective of actually taking one step at a time, it's actually got to do with goal setting. Make small goals, micro goals if you have to then build up your confidence as you succeed in that progress in those micro goals. Does that make sense? So those are things that I had to do and just take one day at a time. Because if you look at what has changed, how many times between, I don't know, February and June 2020, if everyone told you exactly what was going to happen in 5 months, you would have died in shock. I mean, we wouldn't even be able to process how many times, the world is being told one thing and then told another. And so it's really interesting to understand that to keep focus of what's the main thing, to keep your mental health and balance in check, and to not be hijacked by your emotions, make sure that you take one day at a time. When you've done those 4 pillars of surviving, I want to now talk about the 4 pillars of thriving. The power of serving. This is why I love talking with you tonight, because we're here with the Salvation Army of Singapore who've been serving. And look, maybe I can't, with my hand get a spoon and feed someone, or go in my car and deliver an elderly person some food, or help someone physically. But what I can do is be a part of that organization. You see, me and my wife, we have 4 biological children, and we actually sponsor 15 children all around the world who, without our support, would not be able to eat or have shelter over their head, have education, and have medicine and mentorship in a family setting. And so this is the amazing thing where we think, well, I need a miracle. No, you don't. You don't need to be a miracle to you don't need to get a miracle to be a miracle. That's what our life's all about. See, you don't know what beautiful things can come from broken pieces when you give your broken pieces a chance. Then you'll know, right? And so how we see tragedy into triumph, it's all these things put together. And one of these things, which is so powerful, if you're depressed, one of the greatest things that you can do is actually engage in the power to serve. Go out there, engage, do what you can to be a part of something bigger than yourself. That those voices in your head saying, "Oh, you're nothing, you're a failure, blah, 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 blah," right? We know that failure is not a status or a conclusion. Failure is part of the journey. It's a process. Failure is Nick Vujicic's classroom. So when you do that and you actually affirm your value and your confidence based on the fact that no matter what your stupid voices in your head are saying, that you can say, no, I actually helped someone today. Yeah, I'm actually helping Salvation Army help someone else. And I mean, look at what we can do tonight. Talk about global impact. Talk about an impact that is in Singapore, but the ripple effects. You see, love breeds love, and generosity breeds generosity, and humility breeds humility. And that's what we all need, to understand that no one's more important or less important than anybody else, and we are all here together to make the world a better place. That has helped me to go from surviving to thriving. That's number one. Number two, seeing obstacles as opportunities. You see, because I was grown up in or raised up in a beautiful home that loved me, that believed in me. When I heard from other people, oh, that's impossible, it didn't even register in my little mind. I'm like, no, 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 there have been many things that people have said that's impossible, and I did it. And so what's so cool is that when obstacles come, remember, you got to go through that process of, embracing your feelings, right? Putting that aside, not being hijacked by emotions, processing that, going through counseling, taking one day at a time, right? And then talking to people and getting wisdom and saying, okay, what can I do now? And change what I can't, and then accept what I cannot change. Are you with me? Therein, it helps you to recalibrate your brain to know that reframing obstacles as opportunities is one of the greatest superpowers that anyone can ever have. And you can have it. It's just intentionally stopping yourself from telling the story that you're telling yourself, or repeating the story that other people are telling you, and to actually give yourself a chance to not just see that you're going to get through this, but to thrive. And start seeing and remembering, oh yeah, remember all those huge companies that were birthed between years 2008 to 2012? Those were the people who were expert reframers from changing obstacles into opportunities. Agree? Great. I want you to know that as an entrepreneur or visionary, the third thing to go from surviving to thriving is remembering yesterday but living today. So many of us are trapped in disabilities and feel defeated of the failures of yesterday. Shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? And then also the visionaries, and in our life, in our family life, whatever it is, workplace, we kind of live in the future. We kind of become now, like numb now, and then just hoping that things would change, hoping that something would open, hoping that me sacrificing my life for this, and this, and this, at the sacrifice of this, and this, one day it's going to pay off. What if it doesn't? Are you happy? Do you have peace? Do you know that you're beautiful just the way that you are? Do you know how beautiful it is to understand that today is a gift? It'll never be repeated. Every person in the room is beautiful. They have their own story, you have yours. And being able to exchange and engage. And whether you're in a room with your husband or wife, whatever, maybe you're watching from home, maybe you're watching online, maybe you're in a small group setting. I don't know. But first of all, I want to tell you, you're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone. And when you realize that you can, as an individual, learn from the past, dream for the future, but live today, that's when you realize that every conversation you have is so important. Every kiss you give your spouse is so important. Every conversation you have with your children is so important. And maybe this is kind of like a timeout for us to actually do some deeper soul searching, to go from surviving to thriving, to actually engage and value relationships that make all the difference. Cool? Awesome. Last thing is, as you're moving from strength to strength or from success to success, you may not feel successful right now. I've had a very difficult year myself, financially, emotionally, mentally. My soul, my spirit, it's been good, but it's still been very, very hard. And in this, I realized that as I'm now trying to figure out what I can change and do something different, evolve or die, grow or die, change or die, right? What we're going to understand is that we all have this opportunity to have this perspective, the fourth pillar, to thrive from one mountain to the next. Okay, get this ready, is actually being okay with setting and resetting new expectations. So resetting old expectations and setting new expectations all at the same time, and letting sometimes some dreams die. Your value as a human being and your impact in the globe and in Singapore, if you have to let a dream die, don't let that kill you. Money, alcohol, fame, and fortune, if you put your happiness in temporary things, your happiness will be temporary. You're bigger than that. You're bigger than a title. You're bigger than a bank account. And so understand that it's okay that at this point to have humility, swallow your pride, get rid of your ego, and say, okay, I'm getting ready to reset. That right there summarizes the fourth pillar of becoming a person that goes from surviving to thriving. And I just want you to know that I'm just like you. We all go through ups and downs. And I want you to know that I love people who make a difference. And Salvation Army, I just want to tell you, I've got some things here I just want to read to you, okay? I just want you to know that Salvation Army has continued to serve, even in this season, the most vulnerable, to meet the needs of the marginalized, those who've been discriminated against. It's been amazing. I mean, over 80 years. And I'm heartened to know that they continue to do this by protecting vulnerable children and youth, extending help to struggling families right now, providing nursing care to the elderly, helping broken families, and caring for vulnerable foreign workers. The pandemic has caused a lot of hardships, and those in need you and me to empower Salvation Army to help them. And I want you to know that they're tirelessly helping people to rise above their challenges as well. It's one thing to need inspiration, motivation, counsel. Man, I'm actually most excited about, coming down to what's really real and tangible for me is to help the needs of those who need help now, who have a cry of need. And guess what? I am that answer for their cry. You help Salvation Army to be the answer of their cries. Think of that. That's what it's all about, right? Um, I just want you to know that I want to say God bless you to all of you, Salvation Army. God bless you for transforming many, many lives. And I just want you to know, I have a nonprofit myself. I know how important it is to have money to do what you got to do. And so please give generously. You came maybe with a number, maybe you're thinking of a number to write down on a check. You know what generosity is? Is when you think of a number and you double it and you think maybe that's too much. When you think it's a little bit too much, that's when you're generous. So write down a number today or tonight that actually is like, I can't believe I just wrote that down. Do it. Give generously, because where the seeds are being planted of hope, of love, and help through the Salvation Army in Singapore, man, we're talking about affecting not just individuals, entire families, not just a household, the entire community, not just the communities in different neighborhoods or parts of Singapore, but the entire nation. So as citizens of Singapore, let's give generously back to helping Singapore in this great time of need.